Your illness doesn't just come from physical issues, but all the emotional ones, right? So we're asking you to be exposed and be vulnerable. And then once in a while, one of us will say something that accidentally hits one of your triggers. Like if you had a bruise and I went, whoop, and you're like, ow, you hurt me.
Right?
I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know there was a bruise there, right?
So when there's an emotional thing that triggers you, like for example, maybe it's something I said, or maybe I said that you don't get enough sleep and that's going to keep you from healing, that it creates an emotional trigger. That means that emotionally, you start thinking and feeling in a certain way that's not supporting your end goal anymore. Like, for example, you might start thinking like, I want to quit this program, or I'm going to go eat badly, or I'm going to do something that's going to harm me physically because of what I heard or said.
It's never going to work for me.
Yep.
I might as well give up.
So what that's like, we call it a trigger because, I mean, it's a really close analogy because it's like now you've got your hand on the gun, you've got your hand on the trigger and you're pointing it right at your foot right now. Now, this is the big point where you can have a breakthrough, because what most people do is when they're emotionally triggered, without being aware of it, they pull the trigger and they actually shoot themselves in the foot. That is the action, or what we call the reaction, behind the emotional trigger. So once you pull it, that's the reaction. So that point, you have a choice. You can either pull the trigger or you can let go of the trigger. And what we're going to try to help you do is be aware that you're holding the gun, that you're pointing it right at your foot, and then allow you to put the safety on so that you can feel the gun in your hand, you can feel the trigger, but you're not going to pull it. That's the most important thing, because here's the thing. It takes years of therapy and work to make it so that you just automatically no longer feel these triggers. But you can very quickly, as in during this group, you can start changing your actions so you don't pull the trigger. So there's very little right now at this point where what you can do to make it so that you don't feel the triggers. It's very hard. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of dedication and work to do that. But what you can do, and you have always control of, is you can make sure to not pull the trigger. And that's what we want to help you do. We want you to see that you're being triggered when it happens, and then make sure that you don't pull the trigger.
Absolutely. And that's, awareness is always the first step. You're right. It's often years of therapy not to be triggered anymore.
That's right.
But noticing you're triggered really is that, to be able to express it, and we've seen a lot of that in this group, and we're used to it. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we're used to it. People get upset, people get triggered, because this is intense work. We are asking you to peel back layers of pain, because your illness doesn't just come from physical issues, but all the emotional ones, right? So we're asking you to be exposed and be vulnerable. And then once in a while, one of us will say something that accidentally hits one of your triggers. Like if you had a bruise and I went, whoop, and you're like, ow, you hurt me.
Right?
I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know there was a bruise there, right? So that's normal, and we want you to work it out here. So when you're triggered, the best thing you could do is say, I'm triggered right now.
Yes.
I'm feeling really emotional. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling angry. All of those things. And we welcome all of it. Even if it's because of something we said, we welcome it. We never get mad because someone got mad at us over something we did, because we know we mean well. Like, we're only sitting here talking to you because we want you to be well. So if we accidentally hurt you, we feel sad that we hurt you, and we're excited when you actually express it. We're always kind of sad when someone walks away when they're triggered, or sometimes people will leave for like a few days and then come back and say, I've been working on this for a few days because I was triggered. And our first thought is always, I wish it told us. Because when you get good at that, and that's something you use not just here in the group. Remember, everything we teach you here in the group makes you better at life.
In life. So
when you can do that with your significant other and go, right now, I'm feeling really hurt and upset, because when you said that was really painful for me, right? When you can say that in the moment, it gives the other person a chance to go, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. I actually didn't even realize that. I'm sorry. And then no fight happens, right? Versus pulling the trigger, right? Where someone says something accidentally that hurts your feelings. You're like, oh yeah, well, you know what? And then you start a fight, right? So when you can be vulnerable and say, I'm triggered right now, I feel hurt. I don't know what you meant to say in the moment, but what you said is making me feel really, really dejected and hopeless right now. When that's what comes out, you're going to do better here, and you're going to do better in the world. It's called being vulnerable. And most people would rather shoot back than put the gun down and say, I'm bleeding right now. I'm bleeding and I'm in pain. And it's because of something you did, and I need your help.